Has he ever made a real Disney movie?
Disney Legend? No.
Exactly.
That's a whole different podcast, but.
Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. I'm here with my friends David and Easton. How's it going, fellas?
Hello.
Doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. Did you have an exciting D23 glued to your Twitter feed weekend?
It was a big weekend.
We did. We actually were together as the news was rolling out on Saturday night and all the parks announcements. Yeah.
Now, do you like throw a party like for the weekend? Do you like have everybody over, get some popcorn, sit down, kick your feet back? I know there wasn't a live feed. There wasn't a live stream really, was there, for this year?
No, I've never had a party. I have tried to get there a couple of times and things fell through at the last minute, but I have been to one destination, D, but I've never been to this big what used to be the Expo, now is the Ultimate Fan Event.
Oh, okay.
So I've
I did
been
see
to it.
what was
I've never
interesting
had a party, but
the event itself has kind of transformed over time. I was looking just, and again, I've never been to one of those, but I was looking at the exhibits they have up. It looks like it is actually, if you're a fan of these properties and fan of Disney and all of these things, that it would be a really great experience to go and kind of explore all the exhibits, and not just to hear the announcements. That's kind of the big news items, but the event itself seems like a really, really cool kind of showcase and a place where fans can get together, and it's kind of Comic-Con for Disney people, right? Was that kind of what you'd say?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
I think definitely if you've watched any of the feeds, and they used to do it when they used to televise or broadcast some of it on the internet. I mean, there's a lot of performances. There's a lot of just bringing out actors and actresses, and so there's a lot of that. So you got to love that, and you got to kind of love the history and the lore of some of it. But most of it's marketing. It's not so much they do market it towards fans and people that love the old and the nostalgia, but a lot of it's trying to get excitement for what's coming out in the next couple of years. So.
Well, it seemed to me, and I was your take on this too, but this year's announcements compared to last year's, I felt like last year, I remember doing this episode, and we were all kind of like, wah, a little bit, got the blue sky stuff, and there were a few cool things they announced, but they've already kind of changed some of those things because they just seem to be in a really weird place, and they're still frankly in a weird place. But this seemed a little bit more, there was more stuff, there was more meat, I guess. That was my impression. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, the last Expo 2 years ago, that was the blue sky year, and it was a lot of talk of what we might do, and that they even kind of made fun of that a little bit, like Josh D'Amaro said, this is not blue sky, this is all of these things are actively in progress, and we're ready to move dirt. That was kind of his communication, that this isn't just thinking. I still think a lot of things are probably a far way off, but there are several people, some of the biggest vloggers out there, reporting that a lot of these things that they reported, especially for Disneyland and Disney World, are going to all happen within 5 years. Wow. So it's a quick time frame for a lot of this. So we'll see.
So kind of going into this, everybody was, how will they respond to Epic Universe, right? I know Bob Iger got criticized on his call, saying we've known about this for a long time and we've always had these plans and whatnot. But really, what they've communicated to the public hasn't been. It seems like they're almost they're reacting to what's happening. So going into this, I think there was a lot of what are they going to announce? And there's so much to talk about. We're going to break this in, just for our listeners, into two podcasts. One that kind of focuses on media and the movies and the TV shows and the things that are coming out. And then we'll do a second episode that talks about park news and things like that too, which I think when we get to the park stuff, we're going to talk about, I want to ask you, do you think that they answered the Epic Universe question, or is there more to be wanted? And I think those things are still, you could debate, but there are some really interesting things and really fun things that I saw that I think people are going to be excited about. But like you were talking before we got on, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, there's pros and cons to everything, right? With the movies, you just create something new, and it's new. You either like it or you don't. In the parks, if you create something new, sometimes something else might have to go away or something might change. So these are all interesting things to talk about, and things that, as you break down D23 announcements, that that will be interesting conversations going forth, right? And again, because of the way Disney has kind of the characters and the messages, that the wholesome family values that we've always had, we now turn on Disney Plus, and you see Daredevil and you see Hulu things, and again, it's a little less safe for the kids, I guess you would say, and maybe a little less care is being put into what we're showing and messages we're sending to our children, which is what we've always known Disney to be. I think there are reasons to like see, okay, what direction are we headed with these beloved franchises, right? Well, before we start listing all of these movie announcements, I do want to bring up too that Deadpool is like still making tons of money. And I actually finally saw it in the IMAX theater this past weekend. And I will say this, like, I thought it was great. Thankfully, I had avoided all of the spoilers. And so are we far enough along that we can now spoil for people? All right, here's the alert. Spoilers are coming now. We give us 2 minutes, all right? Fast forward if you don't want any spoilers, but now Deadpool's been out long enough that... But the Chris Evans moment was pretty spectacular. Now, did you say, okay, this is not Captain America, or did you think it was? They set it up right. But what did you think?
I was fooled completely.
I think I thought ahead really fast. There was a second, and then I thought he's not playing that. I didn't know for sure what he was going to be playing. That he was definitely going to be Johnny Storm, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, he played. That was his character, right?
Yeah. I wasn't sure. It's like wasn't sure right away if that's who he was going to be, but I didn't. I kind of saw, this is a trick, but
yeah. But it was brilliant because you forget that he plays that role.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is, the thing Deadpool can get away with is all the terrible movies. All the terrible comic book movies, not all, but a lot of them are referenced, especially the Fox ones, right? I mean, the moment when Jennifer Garner walks in and you're like, oh my gosh, there's Elektra. That was Ben Affleck's Daredevil's wife. I really wish they could have got Ben Affleck, there too, as there. That would have been kind of awesome. But then Wesley Snipes walking in as Blade.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, and that he wasn't even a fail. That was a successful franchise. But the fact that, I thought he was canceled. What's he doing on the screen? Is he allowed to be in movies anymore? I'm not sure what. I don't even know. I didn't research. He either got in trouble or something happened. He's been down on, but to bring him back as Blade was amazing. And just that, the whole thing, I got to watch it again because it goes by so fast. Just all the references. I thought it was brilliant. And I thought it was fun, and I'm excited to see the TVA involved. I thought Mr. Paradox and his character was fantastic. I just really, of course, Logan and Wolverine. That was a really interesting how they ran through that and got him involved in things, and it didn't feel like a reach or super hokey. There might be some plot holes if I really investigated, but by and large, I thought, I'm like you guys. I thought it was really good.
I know. I still want to go back and see it again.
I thought you would really like it, and that you'd be really pumped after seeing it.
Well, they know their audience because it's R-rated, so they know hopefully the audience will be a little older. And the older demographic, they pushed all those buttons, right? Like all the candy for all the Easter eggs were for us, you know, that crowd. I mean, my kids have no idea who Jennifer Garner Elektra is. They've never seen that. They have no idea who Wesley Snipes is. They have no idea about Blade, really, and from comic books, but not from the movies, right? Because those are rated R movies as well. And then, you know, the Gambit, the Channing Tatum Gambit moment, you know, that's been rumored forever, you know, but I think it was really funny to kind of how they approached that as well. Yeah. So, yeah, I thought it was kind of brilliant, to be perfectly honest. I really liked the Cassandra Nova character. I thought she was great. It's fantastic.
It is really interesting that you bring in that many stars and you don't even market with it. You've got Chris Evans, you've got all these people that normally you would use to get people to come see it, and you don't even tell people that they're in it.
I was just going to say, I can't believe that they were able to keep all that under wraps for all this time. I don't know how it didn't leak.
I completely agree.
It may have leaked out there somewhere.
If you want to find it, you probably could.
Yeah. But I had not. I think they did do a great job of keeping it. I mean, I think people were anticipating, of course, cameos, and people were wondering who. And you know, I think I probably heard of some that didn't happen. You know, people were like, "What if this person shows up?" or that kind of thing. So,
well, I also thought, and I didn't hear this kind of. And there's so much of that stuff that what flew under the radar was, man, you had Sabretooth and X-Men, Wolverine battling. You had all those old X-Men characters there. Like, it was kind of like, that was cool too. You really got all the nostalgia from all of that and all the eye candy of what you wanted. And man, I thought it was fantastic. I really did. And it's making tons of money. And so there's that. But with that, I wanted to throw that in there, let you know I saw it. It's making a lot of money. What the movies they've announced. And again, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like it's short on the Marvel stuff, right? It's more Disney property, correct? They kind of avoided Marvel altogether. That was at San Diego Comic-Con where we got the Robert Downey Jr. announcement that he's going to be Doctor Doom, you know, some of those things. So that's really interesting how Disney, I guess there's too much new, like you can't do another why do you think they separated it out like that?
Well, I think because they had given their big announcement already that they went ahead with the Disney and the Pixar things. Really, with Marvel, they talked about Captain America, Brave New World. They talked about Harrison Ford, right? Didn't they? They showed the costumes or something, like a clip from Fantastic Four. They played. I think they played the music for the audience for Fantastic Four. They talked about Daredevil, and they talked about Agatha All Along. And I think the other thing was Ironheart, the trailer for the show. So that was that. I think that was about it, right, for Marvel.
I think so. I don't remember anything else. Nothing's on my list here.
What do you guys think of what the buzz around Captain America: Brave New World and Harrison Ford?
So I've seen the trailers. And I'm really excited to watch it. And this is one of the things I love about Marvel. With Harrison Ford in it, doesn't it give you like Air Force One vibes? Like he's the president, you know what I mean? And it kind of it looks like that, it feels like that, or the Secret Service movie or Patriot Games. That I think it's leaning into that nostalgia thing too, which I think is fantastic. That makes me more excited to see it.
Well, I do think bringing in a major movie star in that was very interesting play to make sure. I wonder. I'd love to know. When we finally see the final product, what all the changes have been, because this has been in the works a while, and it feels like it's one of those that you keep hearing stories like they're going back to the drawing board. They're reshooting things. They're what all has gone on, but that definitely seemed like the biggest announcement of this group. I also thought the Daredevil, the one thing that I heard was that jumped out at me was they said that Daredevil's going to have to team up with Kingpin to fight a greater villain. Did you guys
I did not hear that
on that? That's what I heard somebody say. So
wow.
And they mentioned a couple of options and people, but
In the trailer, the little trailer thing they showed, Punisher's back in the mix.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I'm a huge Daredevil fan, so I'm super pumped about all that. So moving from the Marvel stuff, which there was a decent amount, but like you said, the biggest stuff had already been announced a few weeks ago. The Disney releases. Let's go through the list and let's talk about the excitement level for all of you and how it was presented and what you saw there.
Well, the first thing that I think they started off with was Moana 2, and they talked about the Moana 2 coming out. They also talked a little bit about the live action movie, but most of it centered on just the Moana 2, and they showed clips and talked. And I don't think it changed. I think my expectation is the same as it was before. What about you guys?
I agree. I think we already know a lot about that, and nothing's changed. I'm still excited to see it, and
the animation looked good. It's the same cast, so it's all going to come down to how good is this story? Is this a good story, or is it just more time with Moana on screen? So that'll make or break whether it's great or whether it's good, and that it can be good. I mean, like we've talked about with Inside Out. Inside Out to me was very, very good, but it's because you already I think a huge part of it's because you already know those characters. You're coming in, so it's a good time with these characters again, and it didn't lose ground, but so I think Moana's going to do great because of that. If they keep the story good, it will be good. If they make the story incredible, then we'll have a whole new level of like Toy Story 2, where it goes to a whole new level, or if it's just more of Moana.
Yeah.
That's what they should have to do. Maybe from now on you have to say to get the status of 2, it has to have a certain credibility. And if it doesn't if it's not incredible, then it has to just be called more. This is Moana more.
That's fair.
This Incredibles more.
Well, I did see a lot of, and we'll get through the list here, but the criticism. If I saw any criticism online, it was like Disney's got no new ideas. We're just leaning into all the sequels, and honestly, I kind of understand. I want something new, but I don't think that's fair. Like these are beloved franchises, and I agree with you, David. It's always risky when you do another one, but I think Inside Out 2 has me really excited about the potential of what can happen in the rest of these, right?
Right. And there's some things I do get excited about the new, and the one that's coming in 2025, Elio, I'm not sure how they're pronouncing that. Yep. But I mean, I think you tell me the concept. This is a kid who's going to go into space because he's going to tell them that he's the leader of the world. That's that's a really interesting premise to me. I've heard a lot of people be really negative about it, and but it's man, that's a great. I don't know that I would cross. I think his mom is president. And so he does. I mean, is that right? His mom is the leader of the world, and so
I don't know.
He's protecting his mom. That might not be right. Anyway, I just think the premise of a kid who lies his way into space for whatever reason is a good idea. And then because now he's told this story. He's got to work himself. He's got to work that out, and I think, man, there's huge possibilities there. So I like stuff but I felt like when I saw the opening clips at the movies for Strange World, and I thought, oh man, they're going to take us somewhere we haven't gone before, a place, a fantasy world that they can just there's no limits to what they can, and then it didn't get there. The story didn't. It just didn't. So, oh man, so that's, you just kind of hope that it's going to be there, that they've had enough time. It's also, it seems like it's been pushed back quite a bit, so maybe they've reworked things, and I think they're having to deal with some just marketing things where you have to get things to a certain level for people to accept more. I mean, there's just so much content. There's so much content out there. So for something to fall into the category of greatness, it's really got to be good. And I think that we're past this this mentality of, well, we can do anything. We can create any attraction. We can tear this down. We can throw this up and they'll like it. We can throw this movie out and they're going to love it. I think people have reached a max. I think there's too much competition. Not just, there's too much media competition. There's so much on YouTube that you can watch about Disney all day long and never watch any Disney. You can watch people talk about Disney all day long and never watch a Disney movie.
I think there's a part of it where a new Pixar film, you have to separate there. What does the momentum look like, right? So over the last 4 or 5 years, you could say, hey, we had some duds. You're in a rut. You when you have a string of billion-dollar movies, if the next movie isn't quite as good, okay, we'll go check it. But when 2 or 3 or 4 in a row are missing with fans, people get skeptical, and then you got to build that back. And I think if it was pushed back to summer of next year when it's coming back, this is now the next Pixar film that will release after Inside Out 2, which was by all measures a huge success. I mean, the highest grossing animated movie of all time, right? So now you have momentum to build into a new Pixar film, and the announcements about Toy Story 5 is coming next year, so you can sandwich this in between 2 established franchises. I think that might be some of it too. Is that you kind of fool me once, you better prove it again, and so I think they're building back a little bit about that momentum, and hopefully it's really good. I love the premise as well. That was one of the announcements.
Definitely, when we see something like Inside Out 2 do so well, I mean, if you're an executive and you're not the creative lead, you're going to go, well, we've just got to go back and do Incredibles 3, and we've got to go do Frozen 4, and we've got to do Toy Story 5, because your new original things have your Elementals, your Wish, your Strange World. These things are falling flat. Something's going wrong. So either your creativity's off or your marketing's off or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, I think there's always going to be people critical of sequels, but for the fan base that already likes those things, you might not hate it. You're going to say, well, it wasn't as good as the original, but I didn't mind spending another hour and a half with these characters.
Yeah. Well, I think that Toy Story 5 comes to mind, right? I mean, all of the Toy Story movies have been fantastic. You know what I'm saying? There's some we like more than others, but I never felt like, come on, we've already seen these tricks.
A lot of people do. I mean, online, it seems like a lot of people are always like, you hear often, we didn't need Toy Story 4. It should have stopped with Toy Story 3. That was the complete trilogy. We didn't need to know the next step.
Really? I don't know. I thought Toy Story 4 was fantastic,
I thought it had some amazing parts. I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but I mean, again, it was incredible to look at. And it was really an amazing, when you go back and compare that movie to Toy Story 1 just visually, it's stunning. I mean, there are moments that you're like, that I'm watching animation that's like, it's almost like a real set. It's so detailed. It's so perfect in so many ways. So I can always appreciate that. I can see that stuff. It's, you have to focus on the best parts.
We got a little bit of the storyline for Toy Story 5. It's coming summer 2026. Of the announcements that I'm least excited about, we're getting a third Avatar film, y'all.
Yeah.
Fire and Ash. I think it's a Pokemon crossover.
Well,
we're gonna get all the elements in.
We just found out that it's Fire and Ash is much better than its original title, which was going to be Avatar: The Seed Bearer.
Who is going to these films? I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I know why.
Enough people.
I get it. I'm okay with it existing. I don't get this is the greatest thing ever. I don't get it. I don't get it. Sorry.
Well, he's a legend too. He's getting legends. He got legend status. James Cameron got legend status.
Has he ever made a real Disney movie?
Disney legend? No.
Exactly.
That's a whole different podcast. But
yeah, we'll talk about. We'll bring that up here in a second.
Is he a movie legend? Absolutely.
And I guess you want to, if you're Disney, you want to cash in on that. Maybe get a discount on the next Avatar 4.
I doubt they got that.
Well, what else, Easton? What else we got on the list here of movies that were announced?
Well, for Pixar, they have a couple of series that are coming. One is called Dream Productions, which is all about Riley's. It's an Inside Out series. It's all about Riley's dreams.
Okay.
Just the dreams that she has. And then there's a series called Win or Lose, which is coming this year in December, which is about a baseball team.
Yes. And the original concept I heard was going to be each episode was about a different character on the team's perspective of whatever is happening. But I'm not sure. I think somebody said that that's already been modified. But it kind of has that same, I call it Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I don't know why that movie jumps out. That's what it looks like to me, these rubbery figures. Somebody calls it a claymation. Like, it's kind of like Luca and
Jimmy Neutron.
Turning Red to me, yeah. It's like their mouths are kind of that wide open claymation look, but I think it's more of that. And I heard several people say, "Oh man, I just wish it was a Pixar original, like Inside Out kind of look." But it's it's a little more cartoonish, I guess is the right word. But anyway, it will be interesting to see. As you know, they had the Monsters Inc. show. Several people I saw compared it to that, going, well, I tried to watch that, and it was really geared more towards little kids, and we didn't have little kids in the house. Haven't watched the Monsters Inc. I really wanted to see the Monsters Inc. show, but I haven't watched it. So we'll see. I mean, I'm tell you what, the Disney Plus, I haven't watched it hardly at all, and so anything that might come out that might be good. That would be a good thing, because I'm going there less and less and less, and so that's a whole different podcast too.
Well, they also announced another new Pixar film. They didn't announce when it will release, but Monster Jam. And at first I was like, oh, is that a Monsters Inc. thing? But no, it's based on the aesthetics of the Cars film franchise with monster trucks. And The Rock is involved, and Alan Bergman. I'm actually kind of pumped about this. You know, you're in the world of Cars, but it's different, right? With The Rock. And that could be fun. And when you have The Rock involved, you know, there's going to be some marketing push, and this could be a whole new deal. What did you think about that?
Well, if we don't get a Gravedigger reference, I think I'm going to have to walk out of the theater.
Yeah. That's the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I think the things of the movie list, we'd also talked. There's a Zootopia 2.
Yeah, that's the big one. We haven't got to the big one. Zootopia 2. Yeah. That's huge.
With I got to say his name right. Ke Quan, originally from the Indiana Jones franchise, now grown up, and I think he's going to play the villain. I think that's what somebody said. He's going to maybe play a villain, a snake or something. So. That'll be interesting. We got Frozen 3 and apparently Frozen 4 because the story's so big. I think that's probably the one I'm least like. It's the franchise that I just like. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I don't know. And I really do think I do think Frozen 1 is so good in its way, in its time, and what it was. There's just so many good things about it. In fact, I was trying to figure out like why is Frozen 1 to me so much better than Frozen 2? And I know people would disagree, but like Frozen 1 has just a charm. There's like I took my daughters to it. There was in it, and what it was, there was just this charm to it. And Frozen 2 feels like they're trying to turn that charm into epic and superhero, and it's like it just didn't get there for me. So I mean, there were things I appreciated about it, but I can't even hardly remember much of it. There's some songs stand out, but the story, it's like
I agree.
So I'm least, but that of the movie news, the things that excited me most were that Brad Bird was going to be a part of Incredibles 3.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So that if they're going to do Incredibles 3, I want it to be Brad Bird. And I tell Easton this all the time, I'm still hoping for Syndrome to have a resurrection. Somehow he left he left his DNA, he left his brain, he left something in a jar, and somebody brings him back. I mean, that's really what was missing. That's what it's like what you want. Like if Marvel can do it, he can come back. He can come back.
Well,
that's what everybody wants to see.
I really hope you're right. I'm not convinced, but I really hope you're right about that.
I probably am not right, but man, I think
whether you're right or not, I think I'm most excited about that on this list, and I can't, we big crescendo up to this, but that announcement actually, when you you watch the clips of people who post their phone videos from inside the arena, the pop for that was pretty enormous. There was a big crowd pop.
Right. And I think there's a trust level. I might say my other big thing was that if they're doing Toy Story 5 to bring back Andrew Stanton, have somebody that's original to the story that's been with Pixar from the beginning. I feel better when you've got people who've invested 30 years of their lives in these stories and these characters manning it.
Right.
No knock to somebody young or new, but it's just that you just don't see things the same. And that's where story starts getting messed up, because you go, let's do a whole fresh take. Let's reimagine. It's like, no. Nobody wants you to reimagine anything except the small group that wants it completely overhauled. So it's like, don't do this. Just let them create something new. That's what you got to do. Everybody's got to start. You don't want to take big risks with your franchises.
I love there's a David rule of thumb. If they use the word reimagine, be very, very careful.
Yeah, that word.
If you hear the word reimagine, it's like, oh no, don't reimagine. Don't reimagine.
Don't reimagine. And that's in every business. I'm like, I get so much marketing. It's not just Disney. It's everywhere. That word is like, oh no, that's just such a cop out. Like, please don't reimagine. That means you can't come up with anything on your own. Everything. I'm telling you, it's in every business. You just watch for it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere. Let's reimagine this. No.
Let's just imagine. We don't have to reimagine anything.
You come up with something new, because reimagining only takes us about half a level.
I'm with you. There's another new Pixar film that was announced, though, too. Hoppers.
Yes.
John Hamm and Bobby Moynihan in a body swap style film about a beaver and a human who happen to swap places. I don't know. That's a crazy concept. John Hamm's involved.
John Hamm, Bobby Moynihan. I think Bobby Moynihan's funny, so we'll have to see.
And then there's a Freaky Friday sequel. And then you have a live, and I don't want to skip over that, but it looks like Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
That is being remade. Are you excited about that?
I remember the original Freaky Friday with Jodie Foster. So, I mean, it's a remake of a remake getting a sequel. So, but I mean, for that generation of Lindsay Lohan and her generation of Parent Trap and Freaky Friday, that was all pretty big stuff. And hey, Jamie Lee Curtis became a Disney legend from Freaky Friday and Haunted Mansion.
The bar is low. Doesn't take much. I think Why I Love Disney podcast, we got 3 people that we could be Disney legends, if we
put us in there.
How about anybody who's bought season passes to the parks?
Anybody that knows Bob Iger.
There you go.
In fairness, Jamie Lee Curtis is a legendary actress.
She's
a legendary screen. She's a legendary horror movie. She's an Academy Award winner.
Yep.
I don't see I need to go back and figure out what else she's done for Disney to be a legend.
Well, isn't there kind of a part of this? You got this club and you're like, hey, we should. There's somebody kind of adjacent that kind of would qualify, and like, this would make us cooler if this person was in our club. It could be one of those sort of things. That's where I see James Cameron and Jamie Lee Curtis. These are huge names that we're just going to make them Disney legends too.
Well, right? And they did that.
Disney attached to those names.
Again, I think we could talk a whole podcast on this, but all the way back to the 90s, they were quickly putting Elton John, after just a year or two of Lion King being out, that he was already a legend, and there were people that had worked for the company 40 years who were really legends, and who never got the honor, died without getting any recognition. And for marketing, wasn't because these people hadn't done great things. And then we had animators this year like Mark Henn, who animated Belle and all these incredible classic characters, who's just now becoming a legend, and other people that get it after doing one thing.
Yeah, my biggest thing is like Josh Gad. Like, how's that guy a Disney legend? Now I get it; he's a lot, he's done some things, but come on, like Miley Cyrus was just welcomed in, and I actually think there's an incredible case for her. She is, to me, is a Disney legend. That's the definition of a Disney legend. Her entire career is based and launched because of Disney, right? We still, even though she's marketed herself differently as an adult, we still think of her as she's Hannah Montana, right? Yeah. And she doesn't shy away from that.
Yeah. I do think that for that Disney Channel era, Hannah Montana, High School Musical, Lizzie McGuire, those things were so. Lizzie was like still kind of the foundational, but that Hannah Montana High School Musical era was just it was just bonkers. It was so huge, and the concerts and the music and the merchandising. I mean, it has to be by far the biggest selling thing they've ever had. Those two, high school and Hannah. I'd love to see that. I would love to see like what were the most profitable Disney Channel IPs of all time.
The Disney legend stuff, right? Was there anybody announced this year that you're like, not you? I know Jamie Lee Curtis we're kind of like lukewarm on, but we understand, let's figure out a way to get the cool kid in.
I think something to be called a Disney legend. My take is it really needs to be focused on the Disney and the family Pixar thing, and they often bring in the ABC. They want to people that have done ABC shows or news shows, I'll give. I mean, yes, I know we got to put the Star Wars cast, but even that, I wish they would keep Disney. It's called a Disney legend. They think the thing is they never came up with a name for the umbrella company. So when they call it Disney, Pixar, boom, boom, and then you're Disney legend, you think Disney would be that division, but no, it's suddenly it's everything, and I don't know. That's just my take. I wish Disney. Because there's so many people that have done amazing things that people have enjoyed for 100 years, who've never been recognized. So the marketing of it is kind of gross to me.
Okay, yeah. Well, they talked about Mandalorian and Grogu, their feature film debut in 2026, but we kind of knew that already.
Yeah, I'm surprised Grogu wasn't a Disney legend.
Exactly.
Because if you're going to put in Frank Oz, who's Yoda, I mean, surely we've got to go ahead and give it to Grogu because he's already a legend. But
yeah, I'm excited about that movie, but that's a couple years out. But another big pop, if Incredibles 3 got a huge pop from the audience, another one that seemed like it got a big pop was the little teaser for the live action version of Lilo and Stitch that's coming next summer.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because our podcast, we're kind of on record as being very lukewarm on the live action versions of things. So what do you think?
I was originally not excited about a live action Lilo and Stitch, because I was like, I couldn't figure out how you could make Stitch into live action. And I've seen some of and I don't know if they're real or not, but some of the early concept art for a live action Stitch, and he looks awful. He's looked terrible, just scary, like a gremlin. But seeing him in this live action teaser from the convention was like, oh my gosh, he looks great. He looked great.
Yeah. And that was a big encouragement. And it looked like something that would animate well with live action characters. It just looked like, that's going to look great. I mean, I think that movie got started off with a lot of craziness. They had announced a cast, and there was all this disruption online that their look wasn't right, and they let people go. And then immediately, and I guess, how many years ago was that now? Was that like 5 years ago when they first announced this? And that was a different era of online Twitter. But I mean, there was just a lot of, mud from the beginning. And so it kind of, to me, like, oh gosh, this is going to be more of that. It's like it's political before it even starts. So just to see the character was like, okay, Maybe that's the first stage right there, that they can get this thing back online, because it could be a really fun thing. And I think if they do it right, it could give them more than one movie. They could get, and again, I it's not that I really hate the idea of a remake, but I think it would be, at this point, the record shows that every time they try to nuance the original, it has gone really poorly. From Pinocchio to Peter Pan, the Disney Plus movies, they were like, oh man, this is so subpar. Even the big ones, the Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and the Lion King. I was like, I would rather be just give me the same story and maybe a couple more songs, and let me be amazed that you could pull this off live. Like, it's like going to see a live Broadway show. And I'm amazed.
This is a live action version of the original movie, correct? I'm not as familiar as it. This is not like a new.
It is, but it had changes, like characters swapped out, different, just a whole different. Yeah, it won't be the same. And when I think about it, you go, how could they do that? How could some of these characters play out? So I think we're going to have to wait and see. And we don't even know how many other alien characters there are. So, but I do think with all of these, it's kind of like you got to get really close to the nostalgia, or you throw people, you just throw people off.
Well, again, I agree with y'all. I am encouraged too, seeing him come off the screen there from the thing. He looked great, and there's precedent for this. If you remember, there was lots of controversy surrounding the way Jiminy Cricket looked in the Pinocchio remake with Tom Hanks, right? And again, while I do agree with you, it was okay. But it was subpar and didn't really need to exist. They did a lot of work, and even though Jiminy Cricket looked a little weird, it wasn't as weird as the original concept. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. They made him better. And there's another, if you remember the Sonic movies, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, yeah.
The original renderings of Sonic, everybody was like, whoa, this is terrible. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And, and that ended up being
the Stitch compared mostly to. People
but that ended up being great. Like, the Sonic movies are incredible.
Yeah.
And the first, if you haven't, again, I tell people that and they're like, well, have y'all seen Sonic the Hedgehog?
I haven't.
I've seen the first.
It's really good. They're really good. Jim Carrey's the villain. The animation works great with the live act. They really pulled it off. So there's precedent for it starting. Well, I don't know why the marketing teams think they need to show and does somebody not look at this and say, we can't show that. That's not there yet. Or do they really need to release it and let people say that's terrible before they get the message?
I felt like that's what we saw a little bit with the Snow White trailer. It's like you see the dwarf's shadow walk across a log, and then you see a clip of her dancing and singing, and it focuses a little bit more on her, and you just kind of see these characters. It's like, are you hiding something? Are these not ready? Are you still rendering? What's going on back there?
I could see a total scenario. All right, imagine this. You're working on a project, an animated project, or some movie with a very technical thing, whether it's Snow White or Stitch or Sonic or whatever. You're on this team and you're working in this bubble, and there's some artist that's worked so hard on something, and the directors, they're all like yes men, and they're like, oh, this is great. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's the greatest thing ever. And there's some kid or some intern sitting there like like shaking their head like this is terrible, but they can't really say it, or if they do, they kind of get kicked out. So they're like, okay, I guess we're gonna have to release this and just put it out to the public to get this taken care of. And then, so it's kind of like a way to get things to change. You know what I'm saying? We're going to leak this out. What do you think about a conspiracy theory like that? You think I'm onto something there?
You very well might be. I think in this day and age, once something gets ratioed and gets just like, it's like they get the group, it's very hard to win it back. It's really hard to get them to get anybody to change their mind, and especially if it's political. If people smell political ideology, it's on either and I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying on either side. If somebody thinks something is leaning the wrong way, it's really hard to get them back. So I mean, I think that's everybody's kind of on the edge of their seat on every movie now, going, what's going to happen? Which way are they going to go? And if they do put something out, there's going to be somebody that complains that it didn't have enough of this, or it didn't have enough of this, or it had too much of this, or it had too much of that. What do you do? I don't know. Other than you have to play towards to have a hit. You have to play towards the biggest audience. You just do.
I completely agree, and that's kind of the movie thing. That I know we've already mentioned the Disney Plus series around Pixar, which I'm actually excited about both of them. But there's also some, and we mentioned Daredevil, but there's also some Star Wars stuff that's coming out. And I know Star Wars has been a little bit, not sure about Ahsoka, not sure about the Acolyte, which I still have not seen yet. But that was super controversial. At very least, there's a divided fan base on whether it's good or not. But the one they announced, Skeleton Crew, is a coming-of-age story I'm reading here that will center around a group of kids lost in a galaxy far, far away as they attempt to find their way home. What do you think about this? Now, again, when you go in, I know there's kind of like, we're gun shy because of, it seems like there's been some Star Wars misses, but when you see the names attached to this, I mean, Jude Law is starring this, and it's executive produced by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. What do you think about this series in particular? Are you excited about it? Will you jump on and watch it?
It didn't jump out at me like, oh man, I want to check that out. But when I heard some of the people talking about it online, it got compared a lot to movies like Goonies and 80s, something about an 80s feel. And so I was like, and so the people were saying it doesn't feel like Star Wars. This doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels like another space movie that just is loosely related. And so, but then when I saw the clips, I was like, man, I don't know. Could that be fun? Could that have but it just feels like something completely different. Again, it's like, it's kind of like, it's like the Lightyear movie. It's not the same. So will it work, or will it fall flat with people? Will it be like, that's not
I agree with you, David, and I think Star Wars has had an identity crisis since the Disney takeover a little bit, and they're trying to figure this out. However, let me give you the contrarian view on that. What Marvel does so well is takes this universe and gives you different genres that are all interesting in different ways, right? Whether it's the spy movie or the mystery or the sci-fi, different, or the horror. Every property leans in a little bit differently, right? And I think Star Wars has kind of fell a little bit flat on this sort of thing when they've tried it. So that makes me actually hopeful that maybe with these names attached and with that you could get like a Guardians of the Galaxy type of Star Wars thing, right? That feels different. That's a lot of fun. I mean, even The Mandalorian is very Star Wars, but in 30-minute episodes, it's different. And then that brings me to the next thing. And Easton, you can comment on both of these together or separate, however you want to do it. Andor season 2, which I'm on record as saying Andor is, I think, my favorite of the Star Wars series that has come out yet. And to me, Andor is a very serious drama, right? That takes place in the Star Wars universe that feels a lot different, but it's got Ben Mendelsohn is back as Krennic. It's just got great acting. It's a compelling story. I feel like the first season was well written. Diego Luna as Cassian Andor is to me one of the better Star Wars characters that's developed and interesting in a long time. And so I think there's room and there's evidence that maybe we could get an expanded Star Wars universe that doesn't have to feel like the movies, right? Whether it's the George Lucas movies or what was new or Mandalorian, it could be different. And I think Jon Favreau is very key in this vision casting, right? So that's my take. What do you think, Easton?
Well, I'm probably the most casual fan. I've seen the movies, but I haven't really seen a lot of the series. Like I've watched maybe season 1 of Mandalorian. I've seen Obi-Wan, but that's kind of it. So that I'll preface with that. Like I'm coming in with I don't know a lot of the lore behind all of the stories. I'm not that connected to it. So for me, Skeleton Crew sounds like it could be a fun, sounds like a fun little premise for a group of kids trying to find their way around space, right? So I think I'll probably check that. I think that the Skeleton Crew is like a 2-episode release when it first comes out. So I think I will probably try to watch those first 2 episodes. So I haven't seen Andor season 1. So I don't really know what to say about season 2. I'm sure
I highly recommend it. You've got to watch it. Again, it's an adult show. Like when I say adult, not like it's like, TVMA or anything like that. It's just it's you have to think. It's a drama, right? And David, did you watch Andor season 1?
I did. I thought it was as far as the acting and everything, it was so much on a different level than Obi-Wan to me. The writing, everything felt a different mood, but definitely not as fun. I mean, it was very serious, and again, you know where the story's going, and that's probably my favorite thing about Andor is that it's like I know the story arc already from before I start. And so it just messes me up because I'm not looking forward to where's the story going. I know where the story.
All
going.
These people are gonna die.
Yeah, it's like it's not really. It feels like, well, how could you make a happy show about this? Where this is gonna go wrong at some point. So
and that's true.
That's so it's kind of I watched it just because of because I knew we were going to talk about it, and but I was interested, but I watched Obi-Wan, and there were some things I generally got excited about with Obi-Wan, but there were so many moments where I felt like I was watching something almost, I wouldn't call it low budget. I just can't put my finger on it. It just feels like something wasn't right. Something just
You're talking about with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and so I didn't feel that with Andor. That was, and again, there's so much discussion about all these things and the fandom out there, and I just come at it somebody that has as a kid, I had the toys. I love the originals. I mean, I wasn't jumping in onto the prequels until I had a son who's wanting to see all these things. That kind of pulls me back into it. And then Force Awakens comes out, and it's like, oh man, this is going to bring this is me and my son, and all this is going to come together, and it takes off pretty good. But then it just, it was like, again, it's like, oh, you just see the balloon going down.
Darn you, Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson.
You see, and so suddenly all these expectations of two of us with two different nostalgias coming into this new sequel, and we're just both deflating as we go. It's like, it's not hitting anything. It's like it's not taking us to another level. It's leaving everybody with all these questions and groaning. So,
well, hopefully, again, much like Disney, who's been in a little bit of a slump, I'm hoping that these these Star Wars series coming out, can help regain its footing, and then the Grogu and Mandalorian movie. If they can knock these out of the park, again, their challenge is Star Wars fans, like real fans, are going to watch them anyway, right? The challenge is someone like Easton. Can we get him involved? Can we get him excited about this? And if they could get Easton excited, or casual fans, or just people who are, in the Disney orbit, that's when you got to hit, and that's when you can reawaken something,
right.
And so we'll see if these can do that.
I think that's something that Marvel has done really well. Aside from the last few years, I think that Marvel has done that really well of getting the casual fans involved.
You're exactly right. Or they've created new fans.
Yeah.
They definitely have. I mean, how many people had no idea who Iron Man really was before the movies, right?
All right.
And now he's kind of household. Usually it was Superman and Batman, and Spider-Man. Mm. You knew those were obvious. But then there's a next tier. And if you're comic books and cartoons, X-Men and some. But now I think a lot of these Marvel characters are household names to casual people, because they expanded it. They expanded the audience, and they did an amazing job at that. And they're trying to expand it again, and we'll see how successful they are with both of these, Star Wars and Marvel, out there.
Well, I think one of the things that I've learned, here comes the word from Pops is that you got to love what you love, and you can't let when change comes, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the parks, is that one of the things let me preface is that one thing I've been really trying to do is I'm trying to go back and watch a lot of things I missed. And so I've watched some really things I've never even heard of from the 70s lately, live action movies from the 70s that, man, they give me these, it is like going back to my childhood and things I've never seen before, and things that, they're not the greatest movies ever made, but it is really amazing. Like, you can go back and watch some of these things and go, man, the world was different. And this was the entertainment for the time. And I'm not going to when they do things that I dislike, they're not going to take that away. They can't, and it's like when they take something from the park out that I really love, I'm going to go, man, I got those memories. Those memories aren't going to go away. Same way with these movies. It's like what you do is you go back, you can rewatch some things that you do like. Go back and dig in. That's what I love about it. There's just so much great content through the years. You can go back and really zero in on what you love, and you don't have to watch everything. You don't.
Right.
You can really lean into what you love, and that's what I'm doing. I'm really focusing again on some of these things that it's like, man, there's so much that I've never seen that there's plenty of content. So if there's some misses, I just need to focus on all the other things that I can watch.
That is great words to end on right there. Just focus on, yeah, totally, 100%. Thank you guys, our listeners, for hanging in with us. We hope this has been interesting for you, and we'd love to hear from you and let you know what you think of these new movies that are coming out. What are you most excited about? What are you a little skeptical about? What are you hopeful for? Are there any misses or anything you were hoping they'd announce that they did not? Let us know. You can find us at whyilovedisney.com and on the social media networks. As always, we'd love it if you tell somebody about our podcast and leave a 5-star review when you get a chance. When we come back, and I think this will be a quick turnaround on the D23 stuff, we're going to talk about all the park news that was announced at D23, and there is a lot to talk about. So we had to break it into two. We didn't want to give you too long a one. Are you guys excited to talk about park news?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, until then, everyone, have a great day. We'll catch you next time.